EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over.
Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
And hello, everybody. This is Smiles Lewis. Welcome to another edition of Anomaly-NOW, straight out of Austin, Texas. I am your host. Oh, I think I said that already. Smiles Lewis, transmitting to you. Oh, I already said that already. Austin, Texas. This is the sometimes weekly, sometimes live, almost never news and media roundup for the 501c3 nonprofit charitable scientific anomaly institute, aka Anomaly Archives. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching this quote unquote live or Memorex or watching or listening, or hit the like and subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. It really does what all these hosts say it does. It really, really helps the algorithms push us up a little bit more, a little closer every day. Whatever. Who cares? Really? No, I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, we are the nonprofit founded in 2003 here in Austin, Texas, dedicated to the preservation and public education of materials related to all things anomalous, particularly UFOs and parapsychology, all things paranormal, all things anomalous, ancient civilizations, lesser known aspects of human consciousness, anomalous cognition, psi, ESP, paranormal, parapsychology, ghosts, hauntings, poltergeists, Bermuda Triangle, mysterious effects, encounters with what's-its. You know all that if you're watching. But if you've never seen us before, go to our website, anomalyarchives.org, and just explore. You'll find hundreds, thousands of pages about the over 7,000 books that we have in our collection, thousands of periodicals. We've been doing this show since 2020. Thanks. Guess what? 2 of the lockdowns and the pandemic in 2020. We did take a hiatus in 2022, but yep, here we are yet again on a Wednesday. It is February 4th, 2026. Why Wednesday? Ask John Keel. All right, jumping right in, you can go to our Flipboard. That's where we aggregate just tons and tons of news articles that we never have the time to read. News articles, videos, podcasts, everything fun and interesting. A whole plethora of news items going back decades at this point, years and years and years. I think I started the Flipboard in like 2006, maybe. But yeah, check it out and you'll find something you're interested in. Of course, the current like top 20 linked articles in our Flipboard are mirrored on the Anomaly Archives website. On the sidebar there, we have, RSS feeds. You can actually, you can subscribe to the Flipboard through the RSS feed. All the show notes for every episode of Anomaly Now, like this one, are on the website. You can subscribe and listen all kinds of ways through YouTube, where there's the video version, the audio version, or your favorite other podcatchers other than, yeah. Okay, diving right in, whatever. There's a ton of stuff. And I wanted to just also start by saying, hey, if you join our Patreon, patreon.com/guess what, Anomaly Archives, you can find out more about our monthly Anomaly Academy Cadet lecture series. This month's presentation was just this past Saturday morning. It was the first time we've really done a Saturday morning presentation, and that was with our good friend Susan Demeter over there in Italy, a Canadian who married an Italian and is now living over in Italy. Boy, what a life. She was wonderful. She is wonderful. You should go check out her websites. There's links there. If you go to Anomaly Archives, you can find out more about her. She presented Through a Magical Lens, Exploring the Paranormal by Means of Occult Practices. Was fascinating. She has done so much. She is so creative and artistic, and such an amazingly interesting thinker when it comes to strange phenomena. And of course, our paths really crossed back in 2017 with the publication of the UFO anthology that we're both featured in with a plethora of other amazing people. And that is the UFOs Reframing the Debate book, published by White Crow Books. White Crow, and that was collected and edited by Robbie Graham. Well, and coming up this month, February. Susan's presentation was last month for January 2026. Our February presentation is later this month, and that is by the amazing ecologically oriented Dr. Jack Hunter. Man, he has fascinated me again since I became aware of him years ago. He has authored and edited and contributed to various anthologies. And if you go to his website, jack-hunter.yourwebsitespace.com, there's a page for his publications. Some of the most interesting of which are Deep Weird, The Varieties of High Strangeness Experience, his, of course, famous books, Manifesting Spirits, an Anthropological Study of Mediumship and the Paranormal, Greening the Paranormal, Exploring the Ecology of Extraordinary Experience, and on and on. There's just so much amazing content that he has been putting out and contributing to, and just generally making the field much more interesting and much more green in a way that I think is important and fascinating. So I can't wait to hear his presentation coming up later this month if you're a member of the Anomaly Academy patron organization. We are also coming up in upcoming months going to be having a presentation by Zelia Edgar. Zelia is one of these new young guns who's been just doing wonderful work exploring old UFO paranormal cases, particularly UFO cases, encrypted cases, and the high strangeness cases. She is no stranger, just high strangeness. And it's just so great what she's been doing with her Just Another Tinfoil Hat YouTube channel, and the book that she put out, Just Another Tinfoil Hat Presents, and her work with other people is just fantastic. And then coming up sometime yet to be scheduled, we've got Professor Simon Holland, another YouTuber that I really highly recommend anybody go check out if you've never seen his stuff before. Became aware of him because of his exploration of the British Fortean weird series, but particularly this one movie that has always stuck with me, Quatermass and the Pit, aka 5 Million Years to Earth. Man, he's covered so much ground in the UFO, UAP, electromagnetic, non-human intelligence arena. It's fascinating. Check that all out. Well, diving right in, last week, I've been promoting, and I still promote, my good friend Adam Gorightly's new movie adaptation, documentary adaptation of his fantastic book, Saucers, Spooks, and Kooks. And our good friend Red Pill Junkie, Miguel Romero, over at dailygrail.com has this article, Rotten Candy and Its Lasting Aftertaste. Saucers, Spooks, and Kooks film review. You can go read that over at dailygrail.com. There's our good friend Adam Gorightly in this wonderful set that they've created with all this wonderful retro technology. I can see 3 Mac SEs there, or old Macs. I forget exactly which models those are. There may be a couple different models. The old VHS and Betamax videotape players, old amplifiers and tuners, old cassette players, because a lot of the material that he's exploring there in this documentary is of this long gone era, but it's so relevant to everything we're experiencing today. And his co-creator, Christopher Graybill, has done a really great job with this film. It features a lot of rare interview footage that Christopher shot, these wonderful scenes, these vignettes with Adam Gorightly, and all this archival audio and video and clips from things that I'm just like, I've got to find the original source material for. It's fantastic. And there is the murder board. There is also the Red String Conspiracy Madness board. As Miguel says here, if Stranger Things has proven something aside from the fact that egos can be enough to sustain a child alone in the woods, is that viewers are hungry for 80s nostalgia. As an ex-gener, I got to be honest with my younger readers, the music got way better in the 90s. Saucer, Spooks, and Kooks takes good note of it by relying on cool synth music, whimsical computer graphics that reminded me of old 16-bit computer games. Chris, the director, told me via Instagram messaging he took a lot of inspiration from the game Out of This World, combined with hand-drawn cartoons reminiscent of the golden age of MTV animation. I gotta say, yes, all those aspects of this documentary really struck a chord of pleasure and nostalgia with me as well. So you got to check it out. It's very inexpensive to rent or to buy, and I bought my copy, and I'm going to be rewatching it again and again because there's so many things I want to dive into, and maybe we'll explore that more in the near future here on this channel. Okay, like I say, you can go to our Flipboard. That's flipboard.com/@Anomaly Archives, and then you'll click through to our Anomaly Archives Flipboard, where there are thousands and thousands of linked articles. Just got through today listening to podcast that dropped a couple of days ago from our fans, the Patterns Tell Stories podcast that I am a fan of. It's the premium episode, so I'm not sure if it's out there publicly yet. And this is an extended version since it's the premium. Social Engineering Part 2. And man, there's such great stuff in this that I don't know where to start, but I just wanted to touch on it and say, hey, go check it out. There's a couple of things that it's turned me on to today that I really wanted to pass along to folks. One is Garrett, one of the two hosts, Garrett and Klaus. Garrett's been trying to engage Lou Elizondo about his questions about his connection to General Stubblebine, Spoonbender Stubblebines. I guess it's not. I'm blanking on the particular military group, but anyway, there's this podcast that is out there that I was unaware of that Garrett got the post to ask Elizondo about, and the result is very interesting. He basically was asking him, what do you think of General Stubblebine, but in a more complex and depthful, inquisitory question. I'm not saying that Elizondo dodged the main point of the question, but he kind of did, but he also seeded some more weirdness. Anyway, there is a clip of it on the YouTube channel. I don't think they've put up the whole interview, but yeah, very interesting. And it basically gets into this idea that a lot of people who are skeptical of remote viewing, even if they've had a passionate, inherent interest in it, have felt that maybe there's more to it than we've been led to believe, and that maybe there is some kind of a psyop going on, and that it's cover for some other kind of espionage. And, you know, as somebody who's been a good acquaintance with Paul H. Smith, former military remote viewer, interviewed him several times, and he's been always such a nice friend to me. I don't want to believe that, and I wonder if there's even a way to prove any of this. But yeah, that's one of the interesting things in this episode of Patterns Tell Stories is this recent question interview with Lou Elizondo and his connections to General Spoonbender Stubblebine. But we'll come back to that Patterns Tell Stories episode in just a little bit. Moving right along, I've got to be very quick here. Don't have a lot of time. Over at thedebrief.org is this article by Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal. Yeah, you know, two of the three folks that brought us this modern post-2017 reality through their New York Times articles and all the subsequent reportage on the quote-unquote Pentagon's UFO program, OSAP, ATIP, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, over at thedebrief.org, landmark Brazilian UFO case reaches Capitol Hill as Varginha incident turns 30. Of course, James Fox recently had this press conference where he brought together all these witnesses and UFO researchers to talk about this classic, famous, seemingly important case. I'm really not familiar with it. I've never been a promoter of it because I really haven't had that much understanding of it, but it seems to be causing quite a stir, and people are very moved by the moving testimony of the witnesses, and it does seem like there might be a there. So you can go check that out over at thedebrief.org. There is a picture left to right of Carlos de Sousa, James Fox, Dr. Italo Venturelli, and Dr. Armando Fortunato after meeting with three members of Congress and Representative Tim Burchett's office on January 15th. Image credit Leslie Kane. Yeah. In a nutshell, the story is this. On January 13th, 1996, in the countryside outside the municipality of Varginha, Brazil, the geography teacher, also an ultralight pilot, reported seeing a cylindrical craft trailing smoke and crashing to Earth. A week later, three girls walking home through a vacant lot reported encountering a cowering creature with reddish eyes and brown, oily skin that reportedly communicated with its suffering through its eyes. Before long, the streets of Varginha were filled with military trucks and emergency vehicles amid rumors of the capture of two non-human beings. One later hospitalized, and a clandestine American operation that spirited them out of Brazil. Meanwhile, one of the participants in Go Rightly's new documentary is Luis Caetano, who I'm familiar with. I guess I first saw him on UFO Night School. I don't know if they're even doing that show anymore. I'm really not that familiar with him, but he has a website called, appropriately enough, ufologyiscorrupt.com. And this article intrigues me. I have not had the chance to read it. Like most of the things I'm presenting tonight, I've just been so busy, folks. I'm sorry, but I try to catch up and stay abreast of all this stuff as best I can. Living life. La vida loca. Luis Caetano writes titled an article titled "The UFO Free Energy Narrative as Libertarian Fantasy." So yeah, that's obviously been an important part of people like Stephen Greer's contention for decades now, has been that the reason for the UFO cover-up is because it would destroy the military industrial complex, the power elites' grasp on control of the planet, because all of our militaries and everything about humanity is ruled by the military. That's not to say that we don't live in a democracy, but it's to say that it's the engines of these weapons of destruction and protection all run on oil. And no, I'm not trying to simplify this to the war for oil chants of anti-war activists, which may or may not have relevance. Your mileage may vary, but just if you think about it, and there's a really good documentary by, I'm going to draw a blank. Well, anyway, it's a new documentary that's basically about how basically all of our ecological troubles on this planet are the result of the military industrial complex, and that there's pretty much no way out of the collapse. But anyway, yes, free energy is the idea that you can extract enough energy to power all of our humanity's needs and then some from the quote unquote quantum vacuum, the ZPE 0-point energy technology that Austinites like Hal Puthoff and other researchers have been trying to research for years, and which most mainstream scientists will say, yes, this is a real thing, but they don't necessarily think it'll ever amount to anything, that it's just too hard to tap, that it's not going to ever be able to be useful. That seems a little pessimistic, but it is at the core of what documentaries like Age of Disclosure are positing are part of the reason for all the secrecy, and why, yes, we want the truth, we want disclosure, but we're never going to get it, because understanding this technology that powers the anti-gravity effects, the space-time distorting effects, all the amazing physics effects of these supposed craft or technology, these UFOs, these UAP, hinges likely on 0-point energy and transwarp bubbles and all kinds of crazy stuff. And that if you have to be super secret about that, because if that got into the wrong hands, we'd have something worse than nuclear and atomic weapon. But yeah, I'm very curious to read Lewis's article over there at ufologyiscorrupt.com. Meanwhile, over at crisismagazine.com, another article I've not had the chance to read, but I love the provocative title. It's an opinion piece titled, "The Pentagon is Rebranding Miracles as Threats. Are UFOs physical objects from an advanced alien civilization, or is there another possible explanation?" by Stephen M. Bell. Of course, this image is meant to recreate, darn it, I think that's AI. Gosh, dang it. Why? I know, I use it sometimes too. Gosh. I think this is supposed to represent the famous Fatima, one of the many incidents of the Fatima mass apparition sightings of the supposed BVM, Blessed Virgin Mary. And of course, the title, "The Pentagon is Rebranding Miracles as Threats," is kind of a retooling of Professor Jeff Kripal's idea that we're trying to shoot down souls or angels or whatever. Not to say that this is about angels and demons, but this idea that there's something more complicated at the heart of this phenomena, and trying to shoot down or track these things with radar is kind of stupid. Not that I'm saying you shouldn't try, but anyway, so that's over at crisismagazine.com. And I want to go ahead and play this next bit here. It's about 2 minutes. It's a promotion for an upcoming PBS American Masters documentary or docuseries on a subject I'm fascinated by, a person who I've never quite understood, but I have been very intrigued by.
To speak of one sun rock, right? At any given time, there was a whole bunch more. Sun Ra, the virtuoso, teacher, band leader, the poet, the cosmologist, historian, the Egyptologist, community leader, the patriarch, the mother, and that's just scratching the surface.
He was pretty fearless. And it would take a lot as a Black man to do all the things he did with so much sovereignty, with no examples of anyone like him in existence at all.
I think of Sun Ra as one of the great visionaries of the 20th century. He's someone who made his life into a work of art. Every moment of his life feels like a performance and a provocation and a prophetic statement. You think you know where things stand. You think you know what the issues are. And then someone comes in who changes the frame of reference entirely.
Sun Ra is a pioneer in Afrofuturism. He influenced mainstream cats, he influenced underground cats, everybody. His influence is just that vast. And he was making music for the future.
Sun Ra thought that if he could reorder our way of thinking through sound, he could prepare us for a different world. That was his goal, a different world.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Professor Wham's, I don't know if it's her dissertation, but she did a paper in college that's all about, basically about Black abductees, about the lack of people of color in the narratives of classic alien contact, alien UFO abduction experiences, bedroom visitation type phenomena. And Sun Ra is one of the subjects that she covers in her wonderful paper. All right, moving right along, running out of time here. Over at WashingtonPost.com is this opinion piece behind a paywall. So we've got the link there to the archive.ph version of it. Opinion. I've reported on UFO sightings for decades. Here's what I think. Now, Michael Shermer, of course, he's the publisher of Skeptic Magazine and author of the newly published book, Truth, What Is It, How to Find It, and Why It Still Matters. He is generally regarded as a hardcore skeptic and debunker, but I will say, I feel like he has really come around over the years, in recent years, to a slightly softened position that I at least appreciate that slight change in his perspective. Have not read this yet, but it reminds me of how surprised I was when I saw him interviewing somebody to talk about UFOs a year or two ago. That person was Michael Schellenberger, who is another one of these journalists who I find interesting, and I like some of their reporting, but I have problems with on other levels that I will not go into at this point. But it was just interesting to see Michael Shermer interviewing somebody and go, guess who it is? It's Michael Schellenberger. So there's that. You can go check that out at WashingtonPost.com or the link that we have to the paywall subverting version. Meanwhile, okay, so back to the Patterns Tell Stories podcast. The most recent one brought my attention to a Substack article by an author I'm not familiar with. She goes by the nom de plume of Esoteric Ho. I think that's very cute. It's January 3rd article, and that is How I Saw the Grift Behind the Telepathy Tapes, a story on media literacy and high control systems. This gets into some very controversial arenas, some very political arenas I'm not going to really go into, but the excerpts I heard quoted by Klaus on their Patterns Tell Stories podcast, the most recent episode, part 2 on social engineering, intrigues me deeply, because as much as I promoted and suggested people check out the telepathy tapes, I did increasingly feel like there was some definite weird issues there that may not be immediately apparent. And just to kind of connect it back to UFOs, apparently one of the main people in that saga has connections to the Skywatcher UFO folks. This looks to be a fairly long article, and yeah, I don't even know if I can encapsulate what little I read from it from the Patterns Tell Stories podcast. But suffice to say, I bet you're going to if you read this article, you will see connections that will cause you great concern, depending upon your political bent. And yeah, looking forward to reading this and finding out more about that. Meanwhile, there's a number of interesting events coming up. Oh, well, we're not there yet. Okay. I've talked about this. I think if paranormal tourism is a very interesting thing, legend tripping is a very interesting thing. I think it's understandable that local municipalities would take advantage of their local folklore, whether it be cryptids or hauntings or famous UFO sightings, and to create festivals and events around those those mysterious incidents and to try to take advantage of them financially for their local commerce. And I don't have a problem with that, though at the same time, I do in a lot of ways have problems with the whole commodification of culture. I think there is a lot of bad stuff that can come out of that. But I do think, like anything, if it's approached with a moral compass, if it's approached with a desire to preserve and educate and respect the people and the stories and the traditions of the people that are being described and talked about, it can be done well. Over at the mindfieldbulletin.org, that free publication that I've mentioned before, their latest issue, 17.3 for January, has this article, Paranormal Tourism, an Unconventional Way to Experience the Unknown by Isela Madriz. Again, this is over at mindfieldbulletin.org. And there's the author of this article, Isela Madriz. Meanwhile, a similar article is over at SharonAHill.com by, guess who? Sharon A. Hill. Pop cryptid sightings, the cryptid cup, and abominable ball. She starts by saying, there is no doubt the cryptids are mainstream. They are equated with mystery, monsters, places, and fun. They are utilized for tourism and in commerce as related merchandising has exploded, thanks to sympathetic and empathetic views of the other, who does not conform to natural or social norms. We have created a new social space for cryptids to flourish. With cosplay options, you can even become the cryptid. So she's talking about a couple of different events that are happening that might interest folks and that, again, touch on this issue of paranormal tourism. Whether it's cryptids, whether it's the paranormal, whether it's UFOs, I think this is something that we can all understand and enjoy when it's done correct. Oh, did I not? Sorry. Here it is over at SharonAHill.com. Pop cryptid sightings, the cryptid cup, and abominable ball. Yeah. But yes, I think these are all things that we can all enjoy when they are done well and respectfully. All right, closing in here. Had not heard about this one over at CBSSports.com. NFL medical official addresses viral conspiracy theory linking 49ers injuries to electrical substation. A theory spreading across social media has reached the NFL's highest medical leadership. I am not familiar with this conspiracy theory, but I am very, very familiar with the wide variety of electromagnetic related theories of both their beneficial aspects and their negative aspects. This is something I've been researching for years, and people who investigate the paranormal or UFOs and even cryptids inevitably come into contact with the methodology of using some form of electromagnetic technology to interpret these strange encounters with electromagnetic phenomena. And it is absolutely the case that magnets are used to heal bones. It is absolutely the case that electromagnetics and other aspects of the electromagnetic spectrum and sound and vibration can all affect human physiology and human consciousness, and that you can examine anything pretty much from an electromagnetic perspective. Now, of course, there's long been these, I would say, reasonable fears associated with high tension power lines, cell phones, microwave ovens. All these things are understandably technologies that concern people. Even the millimeter wave scanners that you are forced to go through at the airport as part of TSA security have long been suggested to have deleterious effects on the human physiology. But yeah, I have not heard about this, and I can't quite see the connection there. It seems like it's implying that somehow lower extremity injuries are more likely when in these high power fields. I'm not really sure. The article basically says the NFL has publicly responded to the growing theory that an electrical substation near the San Francisco 49ers practice facility is contributing to the team's recent spike in injuries. And while the league stopped short of issuing an absolute dismissal, its medical leadership made clear there is no scientific evidence supporting the claim. The topic, which originated on social media and spread rapidly following another injury-heavy season for the 49ers, was raised Friday during an NFL player health and safety media briefing. There, NFL Chief Medical Officer Dr. Alan Sills addressed the speculation directly. Quote, "I'm not familiar with anything in the sports medicine literature that supports those associations," Sills said. "But I would also tell you that injury causation is really complex. If you think about biology and medicine, you don't have usually one single factor that drives biological systems. Sills emphasized that football injuries are influenced by multiple overlapping factors, including training methods, player history, equipment, exposure levels, and style of play, rather than any single environmental cause. Quote, so we try to be transparent, but we try to be comprehensive, and I would just caution against drawing any conclusions based on publicly available data sources, Sills said. One of the things that's been said is that club has led the league in non-direct contact lower extremity injuries. That's simply not true. That's false. So I think we have obviously a lot of work to do on all these injuries, and we'll consider any and all mechanisms, but that's sort of the broader picture on that particular question. The theory centers on the proximity of the 49ers training facility to an electrical substation operated by Silicon Valley Power near Levi's Stadium. The idea gained mainstream attention after a viral post claimed electromagnetic field exposure could be linked to non-contact lower body injuries, a claim that has been widely challenged by scientists and medical professionals. Despite the lack of scientific support, the 49ers are not ignoring the conversation. General Manager John Lynch confirmed last week the organization will review the theory as part of a broader off-season evaluation of the player health, training systems, and injury mitigation strategies. The substation expanded in 2014 alongside the opening of Levi's Stadium, but the team has practiced at the same site since 1988, a detail many experts cite as evidence against any recent environmental link. Still, the theory has circulated within the locker room. Quote, it's definitely been a talking point for years, 49ers fullback Kyle Zuzic said in an interview with Front Office Sports. It's one of those things that it's just so hard to say because the science is not clear behind it, and I'm very much a science-driven person, and I want to see the numbers and the statistics. The 49ers endured major injuries in 2025 to several cornerstone players, including Nick Bosa, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, Fred Warner, and Michael Williams, continuing a trend that has plagued the franchise in recent years. Despite finishing 12-5 in one of the NFL's toughest divisions, health, not talent, remains the team's biggest obstacle to sustained postseason success. This is just an interesting example, I think, of where conspiracy theory has crept into the mainstream in a very strange way, strange area. Also reminds me of the movie I recently saw with my wife. I think it's called Him. It's kind of a football psychothriller horror movie. Anyway, where did I leave off? All right. Lastly, is this archaeology article from livescience.com. That's livescience.com. 160,000-year-old sophisticated stone tools discovered in China may not have been made by Homo sapiens. Archaeologists have found the oldest known evidence of hafted tools in East Asia, and they challenge a previously held assumption about stone tool use. Yeah, again, I haven't had the chance to read this, but it fascinates me that there's so much new information coming about all the time as humans continue to explore and investigate the mysteries in our world. But you can check this out over at livescience.com. Quote, the identification of the hafted tools provides the earliest evidence for composite tools in Eastern Asia to our knowledge, the team wrote in a study published Tuesday, January 27th in the journal Nature Communications. Researchers already knew of extremely early tool use in East Asia, with the oldest known wooden tools there dating to 300,000 years ago. However, the new findings, which were excavated between 2019 and 2021, are the earliest known tools consisting of two materials, as is evidenced by the hafted artifacts. Hafting, quote, is a new technological innovation whereby the stone tool is inserted or bound to a handle or a shaft. Michael Petroglia, director of the Australian Research Center for Human Evolution at Griffith University and a co-author of the paper, told Life Science in an email, quote, this improved tool performance by allowing the user to increase leverage and providing more force for actions such as boring, unquote. It appears that the tools were used to process plant materials. Quote, microscopic analysis of the edges of the stone tools indicate boring actions used against plant material, likely wood or reeds, Petroglia said. Again, that's over at livescience.com. That is going to be it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, you can go to anomalyarchives.org. There's all the contact information scrolling on the bottom there. contact@anomalyarchives.org is an email address you can reach us at. Check out our Flipboard, check out our Patreon. Please join the Patreon. Please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell, all that stuff. You can subscribe for free over at Patreon. You can subscribe to the website, anomalyarchives.org. We have a P.O. Box 152252, Austin, Texas, 78715. And there's a phone number if you want to leave voicemail. Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. And that's going to be it. Good night.